Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 134, Entrepreneur's Roadmap to Servers, Growth, and Security. From the trenches, and no jargon allowed. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable From the Trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to another The Builders. Today you are joined by me. We're joined by me. Something like that. Solo episode today, and we get to talk about servers, but don't go away. Stop. This episode and this program is not for the tech-y person. Well, it's not supposed to be. So maybe sometimes we dive into it a little bit, but I want this podcast to be accessible to all business people, right? And to anyone running a business, small businesses, generally speaking. Well, the big businesses can listen to me too if they want. But, I was just talking to somebody recently, and we were talking about it's probably related to why I'm doing the type of podcast I'm doing, and why is it business? And there's a number of reasons for that, including that I love talking about business, and been doing it for a few decades, different businesses, and I love talking about it. And when I have a podcast about it, right? So that's one reason. But when I was thinking about doing a podcast, now I could have done, and I probably, even in the beginning, I think maybe I wasn't sure. There might be, a more techie heavy episode here and there. But I think I thought about it more also as things progressed. I thought about who my audience is, but not only that, who is my, who's my market, right? Who do I... if I want to do a podcast, not only would it be awesome if I could do a podcast that's about business, because I like talking about business, but also if it's targeting the people I'm doing business with. So every single person, every client that I have, and every agency that I work with or partner with, they all have websites. That's the whole thing. We all are selling things through our websites, services, products, whatever. Getting leads, whatever it is. And so, and when I was thinking about it in the beginning, I'm like, well, I could, easily have a podcast about web development. In fact, some of my favorite podcasts were web development podcasts, personally, right? It could be about web design and web development and, that type of stuff, because that is what I do. But what I do is not targeting other web developers and designers, technically. I suppose there are some at the places I do business with, or agencies, have other developers and people I work with. But anyway, the point is that I don't want this to be a very high-tech kind of discussion today. I want it to be a warning to pay attention to this stuff if you have a business. It's there. I've gone through a lot of projects over the years, and I've done a lot of projects. I've dealt with a lot of clients and a lot of websites, my own and our clients, and I've saved people from a lot of issues over that time. I have recovered a lot of websites from hackers that have hacked a website. I have, done, worried about security, on-site security, from plugins to the server. I've thought about that. I've thought about performance. I've thought about all these things that we're going to talk about today. And the reason we're talking today, and the other thing that we do on this podcast, is we talk about, our journey and stories from the trenches, right? And this is definitely raw and something that I'm going through as of right now. is I am actually upgrading my server. I'm moving to a new server. All my own websites. So that's the difference too here. I'm going to talk a little bit about client sites and some of the nightmare scenarios that were out there. But I'm going to talk about my experience and what I'm doing. Because even though I'm building other people's websites and maintaining other people's websites and doing all the custom work and stuff we do, we have our own sites. And they're very important because that's how we get business. So we have to maintain them and do all the things that anybody else does, right? We have to worry about performance and speed. We have to worry about, is there a good call to action? Are these going to actually bring in business? Are forms working? Or, is their site not hacked? So all those things we have to worry about as well. And, I've been doing this stuff for a very, very long time. I'm actually wearing my Liquid Web shirt today because I'm a big fan, because I've literally, the reason I have this shirt is they sent it to me because I don't know how they were. I don't remember how it happened. Like a year ago or so, I think I was on Twitter. They contacted me on Twitter, and somehow, I don't know, a conversation happened. Maybe I was having an issue. I don't know what was happening, but somebody realized I'd been there for like 15 years. I've had the same account, and they rewarded me with a couple t-shirts. So thank you, Liquid Web, if you're listening. But I've just been with them for a long time. Before Liquid Web, I was actually with Site 5. So I don't even know. I think Site 5 is still out there. I've only been with a couple hosts myself, my own websites. Now I've had clients on a myriad of different websites, web hosting stuff, or moved them from there. And if it's up to me, they go to Liquid Web or Nexus, which is a Liquid Web company. Nexus is actually geared towards WordPress and stuff. So, and others, but for us, WordPress. Anyway, so, but yeah, like 15 years ago, though, it was a different story. I had my own websites. I didn't do it for other people. And back then, I built my own websites to sell digital products and things, affiliate products, promote affiliate products, did a lot of content sites, niche sites. I had memberships. I had, you name it. And forums, ran forums, did a lot of stuff. But that was all for me. But I also had web hosting service. I was a reseller. So I had memberships, and what I did is I would include as a bonus to my membership hosting. So I think at my peak, I had over 100 accounts. Not everybody that got my memberships would sign up for hosting. But so it was managing over 100 people on a server is a big deal. I know I was on Site 5 for that reason. But then for some reason, I leapt over to Liquid Web. I don't know if I had issues or what. That's a long time ago. And I've been in Liquid Web ever since, my own stuff. And like I said, my clients have been on a variety of things over the years, good and bad. But so the stuff that I'm talking about today is actually about Liquid Web in that context, because that's where I am. And that's the only reason. This can apply to any web host server you're on, right? So I have that long experience, and hopefully because of that and because of what I'm sharing today, you can learn from that. And hopefully you'll come away from this with some great lessons, and at least make you think about some things. Because I know, now we have some clients, right? We had a good number of clients over the years, but I know we're just a tiny fraction of all the websites out there and all the businesses. But out of that, I've run into some, clients that don't have their website stuff together. They don't know what's going on. They have issues. And if my little chunk of the market, my little tiny chunk of that market, there's all these issues, there's probably a lot more out there. There's probably somebody listening to this right now that doesn't even realize or think about these things, realize that there's a risk involved. And not only just a risk to their website, but it's a risk to your business. Because especially if you have a membership or you have daily sales on your site, do you take that for granted? Don't. and if you've had a website for a number of years, do you remember? Do you visit the host once in a while? Do you know what's going on there? Are you having issues? Are you starting to have some performance issues? Site goes down. Things are happening, or you get hacked once in a while. Maybe you need to, visit these things. I know, so the story I'm talking about today is multifaceted in that part of this is about growth. And because there's a couple things happening with me and what we're doing this weekend, over this past week. Part of it's about growth, and part of it's about security. Let's dig into it. So first of all, let's talk about the growth and evolution of servers, right? So I have, and I'm going to break this into just the context of my agency, because again, I have a long history. And I've actually had this same hosting plan, I'm pretty sure the same server for over a decade. I'm pretty sure, because I've always had a VPS, even when I was just solo on my own doing stuff. I always had a VPS, even after I got out of the reseller business. I eventually did, and I always just kept a VPS because I always felt that was minimum for a business, right? And I just like having a VPS, more control or something. Control freak, I don't know, but in the context of this 5 years running this agency, when I first started the agency, I created a website for my agency right off the bat. That's what I do. Created my brand, created my logo, built my website, and put it on my server that I've always had. And so that was a no-brainer for me. And in the first few years, that's where it sat, right? And the size of the VPS and everything was ample. And I didn't have any performance problems, didn't have any issues, and just kept things up to date and did my thing, right? Didn't have to worry about it. The plans I have with Liquid Web, so one of the things with me is, you think, well, Matt, are you a server admin or something? Well, I know a lot of stuff. Like, I've been dealing with servers for a long, long time. I don't know that I'm definitely not, I don't know, I guess I'm semi server admin, because if there's any server related stuff that comes up, I'm the one dealing with it with my clients. I'm constantly doing DNS stuff and moving websites and moving servers. So yeah, I guess, but at the same time, I usually work in environments though that it's a managed server. So I always have the support of Liquid Web or Nexus. And Nexus is even a kind of a different, whole nother layer. Like Liquid Web, I have more control, but they still can help me when it gets real technical. Nexus is more, a lot of stuff is like hidden in the background where there's certain things I have to actually have customer service do, I can't do for my client sites. I don't have my stuff on there. But anyway, so, but in the first year, 2 years, couple of years, it was fine. As time has gone on, I've added websites. I have actually 5 websites. I have my most important website, Unified Web Design. I have mattlevenhagen.com. I have thebuilders.fm. I have unifiedplugins.com and Insurance Site Pros, because we're going after insurance, the vertical niche. So I have 5 websites of my own. that actually in and of itself is not a big deal. We're not getting millions of visitors a month. We get enough to have a continuous stream of things going on, but and we're just fine. But we're not this gymongous, machine that's attracting all this tons and tons of millions of traffic, whatever I'm saying, tripping over my words. But it's been fine. Of course, it's still very important that performance is there, speed's there, all the stuff you think about, right? But it's been fine. But the other thing that we have, actually, I said we have 5 websites. We actually have 6. I never think about it that way. So we have 5 public websites. We actually have a 6th website. I don't know why I never think of it as a website. But we have a staging site, a staging server. But it's a staging site. It's on the same server. And this staging site is where we do, obviously, all our staging. Our own websites and our client sites, client projects, all kinds of projects. Anytime we need a place to break things or build things, that is our staging server. And if you don't know what a staging server is, it's just basically, and sometimes the staging is on the same servers. Like if we have a client, especially Nexus, all our Nexus sites will have they have their own staging on the same server, same environment, different environment, same setup. Anyway, but that's there. But anything, a lot of times we don't, we build things on our servers first, and then we'll move it to a server, right? So we build, like if we're going to build a design and build a website for a client, a brand new custom site, which is our specialty, we'll build it on our server first, get it looking awesome. And then the client or the agency has their web hosting and setup or whatever, and we just migrate it over there. And that's how it works. But that staging server has ballooned over time. And it's not even the number of things that are on there. Well, that's increased, but also the size. Sometimes we work with really large sites or large databases, and it's crazy. So what's happened is, as my team has grown and we've done a lot of things, I got multiple developers on there doing things. And so there's always multiple things happening. But what's happened in the last couple of years is a few times we've run into memory issues. Our server isn't big enough. And that happened multiple times. And what I did at first was, okay, let's put in place processes to clean things up. Make sure we're removing sites that we're not working on anymore, projects, and that stuff. So that's kind of how we manage that. I'd see the limits. I'd see the warnings. We're getting there. We're very close. 95%. Oh, we're just about there. And then we'd clean it up and away we go. We'd keep going. But earlier this year, that we were working on some larger projects. And one of the things I don't want to do, though, and this was a decision I made, one of my executive decisions I talk about. This is a decision I made, is that it was time to upgrade plans, or the type of plan we were on. We were actually on this VPS that I've had forever, which has been fine. It's not a dedicated server. It's cheaper, right? The VPS is going to be cheaper. But I did end up upgrading to a cloud, dedicated cloud, whatever they call it. Dedicated cloud. Cloud dedicated. Something like that. And that gave me a lot more space. That was kind of the next step for me. And it came with other advantages and things. But it was still basically on the same server. I mean, it was same IP and everything. I think it stayed on the same server. How the hardware was managed, or how everything was managed, was a little different. I don't know. It got upgraded. See, I don't worry about these things that much. I just solve the problem. I don't dig into the details. I let the professionals handle it over there at Liquid Web. They take care of me. They give me the advice. Matt, I think you should do this, or this is your next step. In this case, I just saw it was my next step, but I read the sales page. It sounded awesome, and I upgraded. But that was that next step, right? And so we're still talking about performance here, but we're also talking about the growth of the business, right? So as our needs as a business, as an agency grew, I had to continually either manage that or upgrade. So our performance wasn't affected. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is what I don't want my team to do is be managing that, is be up against knowing, I may run out of memory if I do this project. I want them to get the work done. I want them to be, have no friction. And if they need to install something, I don't even know what they install half the time. I just know they're getting the job done, right? Sometimes in order to test something, they have to pull it into our staging and just to really dig into it and troubleshoot something or whatever. We do a lot of troubleshooting. It's part of the game. But I don't want them to have to deal with that. And also, it takes time for them to now go in and deal with, it's kind of good it happened because now we do have those processes in place, and once in a while we will clean things out or we'll know to do that. But at the same time, we're not, in the middle of some major project and, mad, and then we're delayed by days because we're trying to clean things up or make room. So I upgraded that. So that was the next thing. And now also this is in the context of an agency, but this is the same with any business, especially, if you're launching, if you're in a type of business or you have multiple products, or you're building out product sites, or you're an e-commerce site that's growing and your database is getting bigger and bigger, or your catalog's getting bigger and bigger. That there's always, depending on the business, you can grow in different ways, So for us, it's just memory is a big part of what we're doing, or what we're dealing with. But I have clients that have really large databases, which makes brings with it challenges, even in managing stagings and stuff. But so I've dealt with, so I've kind of dealt with that situation, and that I upgraded. So now I'm not worried about it. We have plenty of room. But see, another thing happened. So, and this was, now I'm on a VPS, or was on a VPS, now I'm on a cloud dedicated, but it still all uses something called WHM, which is cPanel. And I'm not going to get into weeds here about what WHM is, but it's basically, I can use it to set up multiple accounts, multiple websites. That's where we manage all our websites under one dashboard and one interface. So one of the things that happened, I had some issues with the server a while back, and I had to go in and when I go into WHM, I saw there was something not upgrading. It wasn't allowing it to upgrade. And it turned out that basically the server software, I'm going to try to keep this as untechnical as possible, but there's basically an upcoming end of life of CentOS 7 and cPanel. And what that just means is basically the software that everything runs on is expiring. And I was going to have to move to a new server anyway by sometime next year. And so I knew that was on the horizon. And so I just went to this cloud dedicated plan, right? Not that long ago, a couple months ago. Well, what happened was, but I also knew this was an issue. And again, it's really important, because if you have somebody, our websites, or our plan is on a VPS or dedicated cloud. And but it's different. It's liquid web. It's managed, but there's a lot more we manage and have to keep an eye on. And it's not like Nexus where it's basically everything's just handled. And I noticed this issue, and so this is on the horizon. And now to the next thing that I had an issue with. Let's recap here. So we're growing. Now we're in a pretty decent place with this plan, but now I know that I'm going to have to eventually migrate to a new server within the year. But it's kind of on the back of my mind. Okay, we'll get there. But then the other thing we're going to talk about today, security. Now, I deal in environment, WordPress environment, and WordPress, by its nature, being the most popular beast on the planet, CMS on the planet, it's a target of hackers. And there's a lot of vectors, a lot of ways that they can hack your site, and a lot of different ways they hack it. Reasons. It can show up in a wide range of ways. Always a little different, always creative, and always challenging. I have spent a lot of time battling and just hunting down where something was hacked and squashing hacks and stuff. And now it doesn't happen that often. And I think there's a misconception out there that just because you got WordPress, you're getting hacked all the time. I'm sure people think that. It's insecure, because, hear people getting hacked all the time. But I think a lot of that is because there's a lot of people out there that have WordPress sites that get out of date. They don't have somebody maintaining them. And that's really, really important. We manage some really, really important clients. And knock on wood, we don't have a lot of hacks, if we've had any. That literally sites, e-commerce sites and stuff we've managed for a couple of years. We've never had it. And a lot of it is because of the security. It's because of the protocols we have. And it's because we keep things up to date and we maintain them. We do regular plugin updates. We do all of this stuff and monitor these sites all the time. And we have plugins in place and security, all those things that we need to have in place to ensure that. And a lot of sites don't. A lot of people just put up a site and hope for the best. Well, they don't realize, or they get busy, or they're focused on their marketing or selling or whatever they're doing. And they don't have a tech guy there to tell them, hey man, you need to keep it up to date at least once a month. But anyway, but all these hacks can happen, and usually we got it under control. Most of the time, in our own websites, again, I'm knock on wood. See, this is why I'm always afraid of talking about security related things, because I have this nagging thing where I feel like if I talk about it, somebody's going to take that as a challenge. And please be nice to me. Okay. If you're a hacker out there listening to this, just be nice to me, please. I mean, I have never had, we don't get hacked. Okay. So until recently, and this is an interesting little side story, side quest. We're going to go on. So we have a new website. So, and actually it should be, after this is published, it should be live that week. So we had unifiedemailcapture.com, which is our plugin, a unified plugin. But we have other plugins, and we're actually launching unifiedplugins.com, and we're going to redirect that one to there, and we're going to have all the plugins on this new site. And I had a developer build it. And she's a newer developer, and not that that matters at all to the story, but it got hacked. And one of my developers that have been here for a couple of years, squashed the hack, right? Went in, fixed it. We've done this. And it came back. And I don't know, 2 or 3 times it came back, and I'm like, okay, this is going to have to, and we haven't even launched the site. It's not the most important project right now. It's like, it's something we're doing kind of on the side in between client stuff. And I'm like, you know what? We haven't launched, because we hadn't actually launched the site yet. It wasn't even a soft launch. It was like, we're just putting it there. No one knows about it. Sometimes you do that, right? Who cares? If somebody finds it, they find it, whatever. And so what I did is, because it was still kind of in staging, I said, just keep it on our staging server. I'm going to delete that account. I literally said this in Slack. I literally did. That'll teach that hacker. I'll just delete the whole thing off the server. And and so weeks go by, and we're ready to go again. About a week ago, and created the account, launched the website, redirected the other site, rock and roll. Next day, I had given one of my Cherie, I'd given her, that's my SEO person, helps me with a variety of things, SEO. I gave her the keys to that site to log in and do her SEO thing. And I got a note in the morning that says, I can't log in, Matt. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I got the login. Maybe I entered it wrong in one password for her. So I check. I changed it. I didn't change it. I tried to, what did I try to do? I couldn't log in with it. I tested that. And then okay, I'll just log in and change it. I couldn't log in. Like, dang it. Because once you've seen this happen numerous times over time, okay, that's somebody's in there changing everything, and let's see what we find today. And oftentimes it doesn't show up on the front end right away. They'll start, get everything set. It's like they're setting the stage. So I go in, sure enough, got rid of they had set up a couple accounts. Got rid of those and got everything back together or whatever. I reset. I know how to go into the database and reset a password through the database, so it's pretty straightforward stuff, right? For a developer that's been doing this for 15 years, 20 years. But so I did that. I'm back in there. Okay, now I'm going to hunt this guy. I don't remember what morning this was this past week. I'm like, I'll spend an hour or two. I'll get this handled and then move on. I'll just do it. And I found the hacked files. I know what to look for. Like, again, been working with WordPress for a long time. I know when some's out of order. However, they can get sneaky. They start putting things in the uploads folder. They start putting it in random places, and you're hunting it down. And it's like, okay, that's a hack file. Still, but I started having problems, and then I couldn't access. I could get into the admin, but I couldn't get to any admin page. And long story short, finally, I'm like, you know what? I'll just delete it. I was trying to restore it in different ways, protocols that we use. And then I decided I was going to delete it. And then after I deleted it, I was going to reinstall it. I'm looking, and I'm going to look at that index.php file. And I look, and there's hacked code in there. I'm like, that's sneaky. So I went in to, I don't know if I was going to delete the file right away or just delete that code. And it showed back up. Like, what is that? And then I changed permissions on it because the permissions had changed. I tried different ways to delete that file. And I did this for a little while, and I just watch it, and I would delete it, and it would reappear. Something's monitoring that file, and anytime it's changed or deleted, it just reappears with the hacked code in it. I'm like, oh no. So what I ended up doing is I contacted Liquid Web, and I wanted them to do a malware thing, but that was going to cost me because I really didn't have that the solution they'd used for that on the server yet. Never needed it. And that is when I decided, it just dawned on me. I'm like, you know what? Let's just upgrade the whole server, because this the new server and plan and everything has better security. It's going to be more up to date. Now I'm concerned because I'm on an older server now, and I see that certain things aren't updated. Are there vulnerabilities there now? And because my sense is this hacker is not in the site files for this domain. Because if I deleted it and then I recreated the account and it showed back up, something's, deeper going on here. And when I had nothing, I had no database, I had no files, it was just the indexed PHP. They just kept. Now it could be in the root. Sometimes they'll sneak things in there, but again, but I had deleted anyway. So I started that process. Here I am. But really goes to show us. So there's through all of this, right? We have pretty strict, depending on the project, protocols around security and keeping things up to date and having good security plugins in place and configured in certain ways. Might change the login page so, the bots can't find that login page. There's all these little things you do, changing database names, beyond the default one that's installed by WordPress. There's all these little hacks and things you do along the way. But still something can happen. Still, something can get embedded in that server. This happened actually to, I believe this is a very similar thing to what happened to a client that we got a couple of years ago that we still maintain their site today. But it took months for us to get them off this server. And it was a very rare case. It is a very rare case. Like it's not. This isn't all the clients that we deal with in all our own sites and stuff. Sites don't get hacked that easily. But something had embedded itself, and it was with Bluehost, I think. And that's a whole other conversation. I did not like Bluehost at all dealing with them on this. But I eventually got them off Bluehost, got everything, all their domains. They had a bunch of domains there, and off into my world. And but I imagine that was a very similar situation, because we would do whatever we could to get rid of this hacker or this and it would just get hacked again. It was like every couple weeks it would like just show back up, and I had the same kind of patterns and stuff, same footprint. Just little tweaks, a little different way, put the hacks files in different places. It's little tweaks. Anyways, well, that's, it's good practice for me to hunt down those things. And good, my team learns too, the more more battles that you're in, the more you learn, right? We, ourselves that, these little things that happen. Okay, now we're doing this from now on, guys and gals. But that, that goes to show you, though, it's like you can have all these protocols, but as your business grows, I mean, I can imagine like what Facebook or, some of these large sites out there, what they have to deal with is probably way beyond what we deal with, and and they're not going to be probably on a liquid web. They're going to have a whole team that's dealing with this stuff. But as your business grows, I imagine there's probably things ahead for us as well. Maybe we will have our own server admin at some point managing things for us and keeping a better eye on things, or putting, hardening our situation a little bit more. But it's something like this, though. I mean, imagine this, though. Okay, so imagine that this was a client site. This is your site or some other business out there that doesn't have people in tech managing it. You're just relying on the web host to handle it. And the web host comes back and said, hey, that'll be, for $50 more a month, you can do this. we can crawl that for you. Check for the malware. but you don't have those. But the thing is a lot of businesses out there, they don't keep their sites up to date. They don't do all this stuff. And so that is why there's a lot of sites that get hacked and stuff. And, but looking at all that, I mean, as your business grows, you're, back to what originally I was talking about, scaling up things, you might start with a shared hosting plan. I had a VPS right out of the gates because I just always did. And a shared is just where you share a server with lots of other people, which is bad. But this is my personal opinion and my philosophy. I think every single business, if you're serious about your business, you should start with VPS or something similar. Cloud hosting today. It's a little different today. Anyway, so, but as your business grows, you have to think about this stuff, because what is going to happen is eventually, especially if you're on, like the case I was just talking about with this other client, they had been on this server for years in the same plan. In fact, that was one of the issues I had. This was a big project, but it was one of the issues was trying to figure out where the server even was, because Bluehost, it wasn't connected to their cPanel or their account dashboard. Even the customer support was confused. It was a VPS, was like a server that was just out here. We had access. I found, it took me a while, I found the access to it, or they helped me find that, but it wasn't connected to anything. And what happened was they didn't even sell that web hosting plan anymore. So, and obviously no one got the message, or they just kept paying for it. But if you don't if you don't check in on that once in a while, at least once or twice a year, maybe check in on what's going on with your hosting. How are things going? Make sure there's no warnings when you log into your account, or have somebody do that, right? Have somebody that can do that. And honestly, I think, it depends on how much revenue you have, right? Now our clients, we have clients that make millions of dollars in revenue. So for them to invest in us, even thousands of dollars a month to manage all this for them, to keep their sites up to date and have a process, a staging process and all that to keep everything safe and make sure their site's never down, and all that's worth it to them, because if they go down for a half a day or something, they're losing a lot of revenue, right? So, and it's peace of mind as well. It's less stress when you got us in there. But so you have options, certainly. In the beginning, just like in the beginning, I'm going to be managing more of this stuff. Now I have my internal team manage my own sites now, but in the beginning, you're managing your stuff, but you still have to keep an eye on it, right? You still have to make sure you're on a good plan, and you're on that you're keeping your server up to date and watching notifications and things if you start seeing a lot of errors coming in and things. And if there's hosting plans out there that is managed hosting, that they handle a lot of stuff, but still it's good to know what's going on there, because it's your tech. And if you go down, if you're not checking your website or anything, and you're down for a week, was that big client that you could have had, was he going to land on your page this last week? Maybe, probably. But, so there's some costs involved with it, and you're going to invest into it more as your revenue grows. And I think you have to understand the importance of that. You have to understand the importance of your tech. We have clients that make a lot of money, but that doesn't mean when we first met them that we're in a good place. They have to have good people advising them too and stuff, right? So sometimes I know for a fact there's a lot of businesses, there's agencies out there that are very frustrated and don't know what to do. But a lot of this just starts with observation and having good protocols in place, making sure you got good security plugins, making sure you got good practices around updating things. But then on top of that, the server itself. Don't take that for granted. You know, there's so many things that can go wrong. Now, I have lots of stories, and you know, like I just talked about, you know, that company that brought us in, and we're still helping to this day. They see the value in what we did. We revitalized them. Their website would go down for like a day. They had no idea. They had no control, and they had no idea where their server was. I had to find that little hidden VPS wherever it was at Bluehost, and I had to work really hard and get the hack stopped and the performance up and move them and all this. But there's other examples. You know, I've had other clients where they've come to me maybe with a problem. I solved that problem, but then, you know, we solve a larger problem around performance and speed and all that stuff. And a lot of that comes down to knowing the infrastructure and, you know, putting them in a good place, you know, like Liquid Web or whatever. This is not... I'm sort of endorsing Liquid Web, but you know, this isn't like a affiliate thing or anything. They're not sponsoring me or anything. So I talk about what I have. There's, you know, there's a particular agency I work with who does have a server admin. So I actually do have a server admin around, but he's not really my server admin. But he manages everything with them, and they got that's a whole thing. But he is, you know, he's really good, and keeps a really good eye on things. But we had some issues where we're doing a lot of work on staging sites again, and kind of had a protocol around keeping basic auth, at least these sites protected, so not anybody could access them or bots couldn't access them. But sometimes we have to take that off because of things we're doing that conflict with it, and so. They were freaking out a little bit the other week about, you know, a lot of bots hitting their sites, and so it's something that we have conversations around. And if you're having a lot of issues, you're having performance issues, your site's going down, there's something going on there, and you need to get somebody on board. Maybe it's the host, but maybe it's a team that can help you identify what that issue is, and ask the right questions. You know, what's going on? Did you change anything recently? Did you upgrade anything recently? You know, what's happening, you know? And somebody keeping an eye on things. You know, we have monitoring tools that keep an eye on if a website goes down for a minute. I get a notification. Why is that site down? Oh, it's back up. Okay, good. Must have been a hiccup. But yeah, I just... This stuff can be scary, and like I said in the beginning, I don't run this podcast like I'm talking to techies or anything like that. I want to keep it as, you know, I've actually been complimented that a lot, like that agency I just mentioned. They have some large clients, and I remember I think we were trying to win some business or something, and I think it was one of our existing clients, and we're going to do some new projects. And I remember somebody there saying, like the business manager or whatever, like, Matt's really good at, you know, boiling it down to, you know, layman's terms, make it, you know, make complicated sound easy. And that's what I try to do. I don't know if I did that today or not, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got something out of this. If nothing else, my entire goal with this is to get the word out. Worry about your server, especially as you're growing. Things are going to happen. Don't freak out if you get hacked. It's like anything. If something happens, you just deal with it. But it is a signal that something's wrong. So if you're probably going to get hacked at some point. It might even be an ex-employee coming in and destroying everything. That's happened. But something's good, and that literally did happen this past year. Employee left. It didn't go well, and the client did not take their access away, and suddenly their site had some issues that Matt had to go in and fix. But we fixed it right away. We got it back on, and then we identified what the issue is, looked at the logs, who's accessing, and kicked him out. But, things are going to happen. That's my point. When they do happen, that's when like I said, it's a signal. If you're spending so much time always like fixing hacks, restoring your site, or your site's going down all the time, or you're having performance problems, your site's not fast, whatever it is. It's not really a conversation today about speed, but anything like that. But if those things start happening, that means you need help. And either you have to analyze it yourself and start questioning, am I on the right plan? Do I need to upgrade my server? Talk to your web host. That's where the conversation can start. I even talk to my web host, right? And I got the tech background, but sometimes I'm like, well, this is going on. I don't know why. Any insights you got? Because they might be able to see things I can't. And if you don't get anywhere there, maybe you have to hire somebody, an agency, or a freelancer, somebody, short-term or long-term, to help you figure it out. All right, I'm going now. Till next time, hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. It's one of my favorite topics. Take care. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.